Please rise and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good evening and welcome to the Attleboro School Committee meeting of Monday, November 1st, 2021. This is your reminder and notice that this meeting is being electronically recorded. We're going to start tonight with a few recognitions, and for that I will turn it over to Superintendent Sawyer.
Thank you, Chairman. It is one of the pleasures of the role of superintendent to be able to partake in this annual event that the superintendent presents 4 awards. These awards are by virtue of belonging to 2 different associations, the Massachusetts Association for School Superintendents and the New England, what do they call it? It's a Nasdaq in my head, School Development Council. So both of those organizations, they have a sliding scale where based on the size of the district, that determines how many awards we're allowed to give, and based on our size, both of them allow for me to identify 2. So we have 4 students here tonight to receive recognition. This is sort of just in time for college applications. I think that's based on the timing of it. And I'm here to tell you that, one, the high school does a great job every year in identifying fantastic students who are worthy of recognition. And in this case, these 4 students are just tremendous representatives of what the Attleboro Public Schools does year in and year out. It was my pleasure to meet with them last week. We had lunch together. I got a chance to speak with them and to talk about their experiences, what their interests are, what their goals are. We also talked about ways in which the school department has supported them and other ways in which we have room for improvement. And it's just a really delightful way to connect with students and to hear what they have to say and to get the perspective of the people who are doing an outstanding job. And I have to tell you that these 4 in particular just have a remarkable set of accomplishments. They really, really do demonstrate that students can come to the Attleboro Public Schools and do tremendous work and to be very successful both within our programming and offerings, but also outside. A lot of their achievements were things that they're involved in outside the schools as well. They do represent a wide range of interests from athletics, music, activities, and so it's really helpful for me to hear how many things that kids are involved in and all the different things that both we do and that they do outside of what we do. And one of the main themes that they all demonstrated in talking to them is their tremendous leadership skills and the opportunity that they've had to develop those skills and to set themselves up to be future leaders. And I think that that's a tremendous part about both what we do and support, but also some of the things that they were involved in, again, outside of what we do. And that's the last thing I wanted to say about them collectively, which is that a common theme in the stories that I heard from them was their own self-advocacy, right? That while we do a lot of great things, to really get to where they have gotten required them advocating for themselves and to asking for doors to be opened and helping, asking our help to make things possible. And I think we had a pretty rich conversation about how that's so much of life is that way, that people who advocate for themselves are successful. I think that's a big part of the story here for these 4 students. But we also talked about how as a school district we can do a better job because there are probably other students who have the ability to be as successful that perhaps for whatever reason didn't know to do the things that these students did to get as far as they did. So it was a real pleasure to meet with them, and I am proud to be here tonight to present them these awards. So I was going to call them up 2 at a time, one for each of the 2 awards, and let them address the committee briefly. So I'm going to start with the Massachusetts Association of School Superintendents Awards. So I would call to the table Ella Lynch-Bartek and Jack Bloom. So Ella and Jack, I have for you the certificate. Basically just says your certificate of academic excellence. This is yours. And Jack, this is yours.
Thank you.
And we would ask if you wanted to say anything to the committee now that this is your big moment in the spotlight.
I would just like to thank, first of all, Mr. Sawyer for recognizing me with this honor. It really means a lot to see your hard work pay off. And I really couldn't have done anything I did without the teachers at Attleboro and all the staff and coaches I've had along the way.
Yeah, I would agree. I'm very grateful and honored as well, and the teachers and staff members of the school are incredible and a large part of my success, so I thank them.
Well, I want to congratulate both of you for your accomplishments, both this award and everything you've done throughout your high school and school career in Attleboro. Seeing the hard work and the impact that the schools can have on students such as you is something that's I think rewarding for all of us, and to see how well you guys have taken advantage of that, and to have such success and the success you'll have in the future is really rewarding to see. So thank you to both of you, and also congratulations. Does anybody else have any comments or questions? Ms. Larson?
I'd love to know, if you had your choice, what would you like to do after high school?
For me, I definitely want to go to a college and then probably studying something to do with business, accounting, and then from there just go on into the workforce, get a job in accounting, try to start with an internship, and work my way up.
Yeah, I would like to go to college and then enter into the medical field and the schooling that goes along with that.
Great. Very good. Thank you. Anyone else? Well, again, congratulations. This is a great award, but it's really more than an award. It's a recognition of all your hard work and accomplishments. So, congrats again on a job well done.
And then to receive the Nasdaq Award for Academic Growth and Student Leadership, I would call to the table Abigail Plizga and Saharla Yusuf. Abigail.
Thank you. Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Welcome. Thank you for coming tonight, and congratulations. I'd love to hear from the two of you of your time at Attleboro schools and what's led you here.
You want to go first?
Sure. First off, thank you so much, Mr. Sawyer. I'm incredibly happy when I received this award. During my time at Attleboro, I kind of entered here being pretty quiet and shy, honestly. And honestly, I wouldn't even describe myself as a leader in freshman year. I was just too nervous to even say anything, honestly. And during my time at Attleboro, I was able to hone these leadership skills through the support of a lot of my peers, honestly, and my teachers. I've incredibly privileged to have a lot of great opportunities like Girls Day and Girls Nation that was brought through Attleboro High School. And I've learned so much during my time here, so I'm incredibly grateful for this award.
I'm Abigail Plizga. I'm greatly honored to be receiving an award that credits leadership. Though I've found myself in various leadership positions over the last 4 years, I've never thought of myself as a role model or leader, just simply doing the right thing when it was needed to be done. With all regards to my leadership positions, I would not be the leader I am today without the music department here at AHS and the various other music programs that exist throughout the Attleboro district. Moving into the new high school next year, I feel such great pride knowing that I'm going to leave behind such an amazing band and a strong group of leaders to follow. And I think when looking to see where we can improve in the future, of Attleboro, specifically with this new school, I think that music should be something that is greatly emphasized. I most certainly would not be the leader that I am without the great teachers, student role models, and various experiences that I've had with the AHS music department. And it is one of the reasons why I am proud to say that I'm going into music education in college. So I could not be here today without any of the experiences that I've had in music. And so thank you for recognizing that.
Well, again, thank you both, and congratulations really to both of you for, for all you've accomplished. Leadership is one of the most difficult but important attributes there is to learn and to master. So to be recognized for leadership, especially, as you mentioned, it may not have been something that was innate to you, is a real accomplishment. So I credit both of you for that, and know that it'll serve you well in the future. And I'm glad that Attleboro Public Schools has been a positive experience in helping towards that growth. Anyone else? Mr. Larson?
Same question, I guess. If you had your choice after Attleboro High School, it sounds like you'd like to pursue a music career.
I have absolutely loved each and every single experience that I've had with my band and with any other ensemble that I've taken part in. And I really just hope that when I get older, I find myself in a career where I'm sharing the same joy and love that I have had these past 8 years with younger kids, and hopefully demonstrating to them how much of an impact music can have on your life. So I'm looking forward to that.
Great.
For me, I'm very passionate about advocating for social justice issues. I hope to attend law school in the future and kind of help reform the criminal justice system.
Great. Well, again, thank you both, and really congratulations. You guys are a credit to the school and what we try to do here. So, congrats on a job well done and on future and continued success. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, we're just going to take a minute real quick while they take some pictures. We need both Principal Rooney and Mr. Sawyer for the next presentation.
Sorry.
All right. Thank you. Next, we have our a spotlight event, spotlight and recognitions in one meeting, and it almost feels like normal.
We're getting there.
We're getting there, right?
Baby steps.
So, yeah, I'm happy to turn it over to Superintendent Sawyer to introduce our spotlight event, which is the Attleboro High School.
Yeah, so
CTE
I wanted to start by saying we're very excited to be returning to spotlight events. Obviously, that's one of the most important things we do here. It's a chance for us to share with both the committee and the community the good work in the schools, and it's been difficult for us to not be able to do that. And so it's a watershed moment that we're getting back to this. Tonight we're getting a presentation from our CTE program. We chose to start here because obviously, literally looming large is the new building, and the fact that we'll be moving in less than a year. And while there are a lot of changes that are going to come with that, some of the most substantive changes are related to career and technical education. So we just wanted to give you an update on what's going on in these programs, and also I believe this is the first time, well, you've met Mr. Gay. This will be the first time that he's been able to present as director, if I'm remembering correctly. And that was something that we really wanted to get in front of you as quickly as possible. So at this time, I would ask up Mr. Gay and Mr. Rooney.
Good evening.
Good evening. Good evening. Thank you all for having us here tonight, and I concur with the superintendent that it's nice to have some degree of normalcy and positivity. Most of you know that I'm a CTE parent myself. My son's in his freshman year in an engineering program down at Clemson University, and had a fabulous experience with Miss McGinnis. And I've just been so incredibly impressed with, how Mr. Gay and the CTE staff have really taken the opportunity to recognize the fact that this new building is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. And I think you're going to be very impressed tonight to see the rapid growth that we've had both in programmatic offerings, but also participation. So without further ado, I'll turn it over to Mr. Jeremy Gay.
Thank you, Mr. Rooney. Good evening, everybody. Thank you for having me this evening. And it's an exciting time in current technical education here at Attleboro High School. So this evening, I'm going to spend a little bit of time talking about where we were, where we currently are, and the direction that we're heading into. So for many years at Attleboro, we had about 12 CTE programs, and that was the status quo for many, many years. Currently, we're at 15 programs. The three newest programs are marketing, robotics and automation technology, and radio and television broadcasting. So that brings us to 15. Up and ready for next fall are going to be three new programs: cosmetology, dental assisting, and heating, ventilation, and air conditioning, bringing our total to 18. And one of the striking things when you step back and you look at the sheer numbers of programs that we have, going from 12 to 18 is a 33% increase in CT offerings in a matter of about three or 4 years by the time we're all said and done. And when you look at such rapid and large growth, this is my 26th year in vocational education. I know I don't look it, but it has been that long. And my background is regional vocational education. And looking back at all the different schools and all the different expansion projects that have been done over the years, I can't remember the last time that a district expanded so much, so quickly, the number of CT offerings. And going back through my head and trying to look at the data, the only time that I can see that it was done was about 50 years ago, when most of the regional vocational schools were built in the late 60s and early 70s. So that's tremendous growth, and that really shows the value that the Attleboro community puts on career and technical education. And because of that significant quick growth, it's getting ready for that new building. It's a lot of work. And it's even Desi will tell you that's a heavy lift. And they're not joking, it's a heavy lift. But what's rewarding is the residents, the community of Attleboro, put their faith in the school to put up that building project. This committee supports career and technical education, and this growth would not occur if it wasn't for the unwavering support of Mr. Sawyer and Mr. Rooney, because they allow me to do the work that I need to do behind the scenes to get everything up and running. So it's been truly rewarding, it's been a pleasure, it's been exhausting, but in the long run, it is worth it, because these programs will be running for the students of Attleboro for many, many years to come. And that's, although I have many years to go in my career, this will be probably the high point of it, because it's just been an amazing experience. I'm fortunate tonight. I have a lot of good news to tell you. So, for many years, the enrollment at Attleboro CT has been in the low to mid 60% range overall. In the last 2 years, we went from 60% to 64% from 19 to 20. And then from 20 to 21, we saw an 8% increase in overall participation in CTE. That was during a pandemic. That's when the students we're getting 2 hours a week of hands-on instruction. And that is a tremendous accomplishment. And I give the credit to the teachers, because the existing program, yes, we are adding more programs. So simply by adding more programs, you're going to have an increase in enrollment. However, that aside, our existing programs have seen a significant increase in enrollment. And that's because they've been working with a focus of recruitment and retainment. Because the importance of recruitment and retainment is very simple. DESE's own data shows that students that participate in CTE, they score higher on standardized testing, they have better attendance, they have fewer discipline referrals, and they also have better completion rates for 2- and 4-year colleges. So the end game is students in CTE benefit in every respect. So our teachers have been working diligently on that matter, and it is paying off. So relative to expansion, I thought it would be interesting to kind of compare Attleboro to other comprehensive schools with CTE. The problem with that is there's no perfect comparison. There's no two districts are similar. However, it would be unfair to me to compare us to Worcester, because Worcester has its own technical high school, and it also has 4 or 5 other high schools that have CTE components. So the numbers, it wouldn't jive. But what I did do is in this graph, I did put in some other comprehensive districts, rather large districts with a single high school with CTE. And if you look at their total CTE population, we're right there. We're the second highest out of that grouping. But if you look at the end column where it's CTE utilization, the number of students from the comprehensive high school that are participating in CTE, it's very common for most comprehensive high schools to hover around 50% participation. Attleboro's at 72%. That's evidence to me that this community values career and technical education and all of its benefits. So that is, that's an incredible number right there. Coming from my regional VOTEC background, I thought it would be interesting to compare us to how we stand to those schools. The schools that you see on that graph, besides Attleboro, are the largest regional vocational schools in the state. There's about 30 of them overall. And as you can see, one of the data points I used was the freshman exploratory class, because that's the number that we all draw students from. Granted, if a student is in a regional vocational school, they're all in VOTEC, they're all going to take a shop later in the year. Attleboro is a little different. Students opt into CTE because they also have the non-CTE availability. But if you look at those numbers of total population, we're not the biggest, obviously, but we are on track to be one of the largest vocational schools in the state, comprehensive or regional VOTEC. And now those are our numbers currently. And I think next year, a year from now, if I do get invited back, once those other programs are up and running and enrollment, they're not going to be at 100% enrollment because we're going to only open up the first year or so. But our enrollment, I believe, is going to be increasing because the programs that we've been opening are dissimilar to our existing programs, so they're not competing with other programs. There is no other cosmetology program. There is no other dental assisting program. So it's not like we're going to be drawing off necessarily so many students from other programs to feed these programs. I think we're going to see some of that, but I think most of the enrollment we're going to see is new participation. This is the fun part. We have been very fortunate here at CTE at Attleboro. We have been extremely lucky when it comes to competitive grants. This is just in the last 3 years. It started off with my predecessor, Ann Montagno. She wrote a $250,000 capital skills grant for robotics and automation. We purchased all the equipment, obviously robots, but also pneumatic and hydraulic automation along with programmable logic control units. I had to learn what those were. So if you're going to buy something, you better figure out what it is. So all that, some of that equipment is up and running right now. Obviously, we don't have the complete facilities for it, but it is here in the school. And if you see a large crate in the Bray Auditorium, that's one of the mechanisms. So That was one grant. The next one was 2020. It was another $250,000 for metal fabrication and engineering. For metal fabrication, it was about $147,000. We bought augmented reality welding trainers. So what that is, it looks like a welding unit, it feels like a welding unit, but when the students put on the welding helmet, they're actually using plastic props that resemble pipe or flat stock, and there's an oculus. And that lens then turns that plastic prop into steel pipe, galvanized pipe, stainless steel pipe, whatever they want to weld. And this training is done in a classroom. There is no fumes, there is no consumable supplies, there is no worry of high voltage, there is no expense of stock. It's basically using the same amount of electricity as this computer. The students adjust the welder like they normally would. It sounds like a welder, but the wonderful thing about those units is that it actually assesses the weld quality that the student's doing. What's significant about those two first grants, that is equipment that was slated to be purchased with the new building project for those programs. So those first two grants is actually a savings to the district. We also received a Cte Partnership Grant. That's a federal grant, and that's seed money to start a new program, and we designated that for HVAC. So basically what we did was we had an outside consultant, an HVAC expert, write a complete curriculum along with safety tests and everything to go with that. And we also have articulation agreements with post-secondary institutions all lined up. So that grant paid for that. So that was a wonderful benefit for us. The next grant is significantly less money than the other ones, but as I tell Mr. Sawyer regularly, I don't like to see money left on the shelf. So that was a small grant that was used to purchase electronic and robotic equipment for computer information systems and robotics and automation. The last one was this year, another $180,000 for metal fabrication and joining. That program is booming with enrollment. Manufacturing is a critical industry in this area. And we're purchasing, they're not robots, they're called cobots. And it's basically a flat, heavy steel welding table with an attached MIG welder. And the students program a robotic arm to perform welding operations. But instead of students having to, similar to a CNC machine, writing hundreds of lines of code, they simply point and click the arm to where they want it to go, at what angle they want it to go, and then they adjust the feed rate and voltage accordingly based on the stock that they want to weld. So it's truly cutting-edge technology, and we'll be getting 2 of those units as soon as the shipping fiasco is cleared up a little bit. And the capital skills grants are offered usually twice yearly, and even though we are moving into a new building and all the equipment for that for those programs are either being purchased or being brought over, we will always continually apply for these grants because technology changes, and if we're going to offer career and technical education that's relevant and rigorous, we need to continue to purchase equipment, and these capital skills grants are just a tremendous boon for the department. I've spoken quite a lot. I think I've spoken quite a lot. And what I would like to do now is I'd like to have some teachers and students come up and speak to you a little bit. And what I would like to do first is introduce Miss Lisa Crisafulli. She is from our newest Chapter 74 program, which is marketing. Ms. Crisafulli? Mm-hmm. You want to slide over? You want to stand? You want them to sit?
They can stand.
All right.
Unfortunately, Nydia was not able to make it, so Nyla is here. Grabbed her right from cheerleading practice and told her to get in here and help us out. So I'm also really excited. I was in business and finance before I became a teacher 8 years ago, and I've really wanted this here at Attleboro High School. So when Mr. Gay and I met, it was like all steam ahead, and we went for it. So I'm really excited. This is my first year with a group of sophomores. So I did CTE exploratory last year, and it was very difficult in having 2 hours with the students, and then quarantine, and then this and that and all of that, and then we were home and whatnot. So it was a crazy year, but I'm really proud to say that I have 19 people who have entered into our program for our very first year, especially in a school where my classroom has not changed. It's not pretty, it's not all up in lights or anything. It's the same old math classroom that it always used to be. And somehow we were able to get 19 students to sign up, working on my 20th. She's right there. She's just about to switch over to me full time. So I'll let them speak for why they chose marketing.
Hello, I'm Darius Kwok. I'm a sophomore. I chose marketing because not only is it in business, which is what my parents did and are doing currently, but also there's creativity to it. And not only is it creative, but there's also a logistical and logic side to it. So it fits like two parts to who I think I am. I think of things very logically, but at the same time, that gets boring. I don't like looking at numbers all the time. So creativity is also fun. And marketing is also a very valuable part of a business and industry, because if you don't know what your customers want and how you're going to sell anything. I love the program because of that. It's a unique opportunity that I know personally will go on my college application as something that makes me stand out. Because what's going to separate me from some kid in like New Mexico who wants to go to some college that I want to go to and I'm applying for is the fact that my school had this brand new program for marketing students. And I think it's just a unique opportunity that I'm very grateful and very thankful that I was able to be a part of.
Hello everyone, my name is Natalie Wack. I'm a sophomore as well. Marketing was like new to me. Like I just wanted to try something like different. So I guess like going back off what Darius said, just like exploring like new things. I don't know what I want to do like exactly yet. So the 3 years that I'm going to be in marketing, I'll like learn more about it and like what I want to do. And also like I can look up like colleges that like marketing or that specializes in it. So like that's like good too. So just like open to like new ideas.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'd next like to introduce Mr. Reed from Criminal Justice.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board.
Mr. Reed?
Most of you know my name is Toby Reed. I've been teaching for 22 years, and it does show. It's called a callback. It's an older joke.
I got you.
I'm terrible at following. I'm terrible at following directions. I was told to bring 2. I brought 4. They said they wanted to come, and I said, okay. So from my right over, next to me I have Miss Amber Massey. Miss Massey is a senior. She is in my level 3 class, so she's been in all 3 levels with me. Abby Churchill, she is a sophomore. She is in my level 1 class. Curtis Kane is a junior. He is in my level 2 class. And Alex Sawyer, who is in my level 1 class, is a sophomore as well. So the last thing you need to do is hear from me. So do you want to ask them questions, or do you want them just to speak?
I would love to know what both drew them to the program and what they've liked about it and what they hope to do with what they learn.
So first of all, thank you for having me. So what drew me to the program was ever since I was getting into towards the end of middle school, I always was drawn towards law, all the law shows, all the cases that I would see come up. So I joined criminal justice in hopes to become a juvenile justice and delinquency prevention lawyer, and to learn more about the court systems and what ties into that, and all the things that kind of go into it and what makes law, the backstory behind it, all the things that bring you to the courtroom that come outside of the courtroom, et cetera, et cetera. So I think Mr. Reed gave us a great job of showing us that when it comes to policing in the courtroom, government, and stuff like that.
And Amber is also a member of the mock trial, or competition mock trial team.
Yes.
Oh, hi, I'm Abby Churchill, and Well, I joined this class because one, my family was always involved in criminal justice, and I grew up like also interested in like law shows and things like that. And to be honest, I thought I wanted to be a lawyer, but like Mr. Reed does like he brings in lots of guests, and now I'm confused because there's so many options that I didn't know were options. So it's like good to like explore like what you could be and like find out more about it.
I'm Curtis Kame. I'm the one that ran into a trash can, and from a young age, I've always been interested in the criminal justice system and the ins and outs of it, and just I've always been intrigued by it. And the first day I walked in the freshman class, I was just like I was one of the new kids or whatever. I walked in there, and I knew almost instantly this is the class I wanted to be in. He was super welcoming, Mr. Reed, and the program itself just seemed super interesting. And at first, I wanted to be a police officer. When I first walked in, I was like, yeah, I'm pretty sad. I know what I'm going to do. And then Mr. Reed, over hybrid learning, which is, was tough on everyone, we had a guest speaker who was a special agent at the FBI. While I was, sitting in bed, I didn't get out. I was sitting in bed. I was hearing this guy talk, and it struck me like that. And I was like, you know what, this is exactly what I want to do. And that's, get my bachelor's degree and just hopefully do that.
I'm Alex. Many of you know me, anyways. I actually had no clue what I wanted to do. When I walked in, I thought I wanted to be a lawyer, but I've seen so many differences and so many challenges in life, and I want to be there for somebody and help them, and so I joined the program knowing that if I do this, I have a step where I can go out into the world and I can change something, make a law that protects somebody and can make life a little bit easier for somebody else.
Great job. Thank you.
Great. Thank you all very much. Thank you.
Thank you.
And last and far from least, Mr. Brillon from Metal Fabrication and Joining.
Good evening, everyone. It's nice to be back here. With me tonight is one of the student from my senior class. This is Freddie Wheaton, and a student from my junior class, Miss Samantha Frigal. Very nice to be back again. I just wanted to say, well, first of all, thank you. We're very excited to hear about the Capital Skills Grant. What this is going to do, it's going to allow us to use new technologies to our benefit. These robotic welding arms are awesome, and they're going to kind of open up new opportunities for us to service the community, really. We can take in jobs now, and we can start producing a atmosphere that's more business-like, and the students get the opportunities to in fact run these businesses. So it's a really great, exciting time for the metal shop, and it's come a long way. When I first started about 4 years ago, I was in front of you, the panel here, and I was talking a little bit about my intentions of the program and what I was going to do to try to get it back up to snuff. I had no idea what the end result was going to be, but I did have intentions. And it's becoming more and more clear now with the help of both Mr. Rooney, Mr. Gay, my peers, my mentors, and my students as well. And these two students have proven to be an extreme benefit to the program. They are natural-born leaders. Not only do they increase the morale of the classes in which they're in, but they also help tremendously to bring the program up to snuff. So, first, Freddie.
So hello everybody. As Mr. B said, my name is Freddie Wheaton. I'm currently a senior in his Welding 3 class, and I just want to talk to you guys about kind of my journey through CTE, where it's taken me and where I'm going to take it. So initially I knew I wanted to take a CTE just so I could kind of attain a skill that I didn't know anything about and I could use in the real world. I'm very big on wanting to use skills I learned at school in the real world, and I thought CTE was a great way to do that. So when going through the freshman exploratory program, Mr. B's class really latched onto me. I loved everything about it. The science, engineering, and metallurgy aspects of it, along with just being able to take a portion of my day and work with my hands, really attached me to the welding program. So, I've spent 3 years now in the welding shop. I've learned more than I could ever imagine, and I've made new friends, new memories, new hobbies, and just it's been all good things. So, and I think Mr. B does a fantastic job with all of his students, preparing us for what is to come in the real world. It's not only welding, like I said. We really develop our professionalism skills. We develop, meeting deadlines, being professional, and getting out a complete and, worthy product that we can be proud of. So in my future, I'm looking to pursue a career in the United States Coast Guard. I've applied to the United States Coast Guard Academy. I'm currently awaiting response on that, so I'm hopeful. And if I do get into the academy, I know that Mr. B's lesson and Mr. B's curriculum will completely follow through and allow me to be successful at the academy with the rigorous engineering courses. And if I don't get into the academy, I plan on enlisting in the Coast Guard. And everything from the buoys to the boats, honestly, everything in the Coast Guard has to do with welding in some way. So I know that if I enlist in the Coast Guard or if I go in through the academy, I'll have a step ahead of everybody else, just having so much background knowledge and a skill that not many people do. So I'm thankful for all the opportunities that the welding CTE has brought me, all the opportunities Mr. B has brought me and my classmates, and I'm looking forward to using all the skills I've learned in my future. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Sam Fergal, and I'm part of the 2023 graduating class. I would like to thank you all for this opportunity to speak tonight. To start off, I'd like to tell you a little bit about myself. I'm in Mr. B's Welding 2 class with all the other juniors. I'm on Mr. Billen's Welding and Fabrication Advisory Board, along with Mr. Rugg's Robotics and Automation Advisory. I compete in school sports. I throw discus and I sprint for the track team. I'm also the only girl on the golf team for the past 2 years. I'm also a part of the American Welding Society, and I'm a competitor in Skills USA. My love for welding came from the sculpture class I took with Mr. B freshman year. From the first demonstration, I knew that I was going to love it, and so I do. As a kid, I never quite fit in. I was always about trying to do everything and moving on to something else, saying that I could do pretty much anything. But welding is definitely a challenge for me, and I think that's why I love it so much. There are so many things to it, and to master it is a goal that I can't wait to accomplish. From my first class to now, I'm always learning something new, and some of the projects I've created, like wind chimes, boxes, 3D stars, we've created an AHS class sculpture, and my favorite, a candle holder out of scrap parts. I look at every day and I think, wow, I did that. I think confidence is one of the main things that I've learned, along with leadership and teamwork in his class. In order for the class to run, we all work together to hold something, turn a valve that's just slightly too tight, or even get feedback to help improve our skills. I was able to demonstrate this by teaching a new student to the program how to take apart and put back together a machine, and that student now does great in class and is working alongside with everyone else, and we've all become really great friends. Mr. Brillen is a super awesome and always tries to get us opportunity. For example, this past Friday and last year we got a tour of the new school, and we got to learn about the different metals and procedures that are going into the structure for the building. For a lot of people, that's what they want to do, so we all thought it was super awesome to see like the planning and all the different skills that you needed in order to do that. I've also gotten a lot of personal opportunities. Like over the summer, I went to a fabrication and manufacturing workshop to learn how to program robots to weld and to use different machining techniques to create toolboxes, center punches, and multi-purpose hammers. Some of this will also hopefully be taught next year with the new equipment that we will be receiving, and I think it's going to be such a good experience to practice, and it will like eventually get put in most workplaces. This year, I will also be going to work with some of the other CTE teachers, like plumbing, robotics, and we're going to learn soldering and technical blueprinting, which will also be helpful to learn if we want to pursue a career in the welding field. This is also beneficial for my education. I believe that I want to become a engineer. As of right now, I'm looking into Pennsylvania College of Technology and Ferris State University in Michigan. Along with the CTE program, I have also been taking all honors classes, and I'm working to receive my honors diploma for graduation. I'd like to thank all of the teachers, all of like the equipment that we've had for all these great opportunities. I don't think I would be here standing here today if it wasn't for everything that has been presented to me. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
I'm blown away. I mean, you know, to be here tonight in front of you, to have those 4 outstanding seniors recognized by the superintendent, to have these 2 wonderful, committed members of the student body who, you know, come to these meetings and work with me to prepare, and then just the passion of these teachers and how it resonates through their students. I'm just absolutely blown away. I'm rarely speechless. You guys know that, and had to catch my breath there for a minute. But you know, I just think that Mr. Gay's leadership has really taken a very strong CTE program and just brought it to another level. And your support and the community support of us having this brand new building, which serves literally as a tangible motivation to all of our students and all of our staff, is something that we are extremely grateful for and extremely excited about. As Mr. Gay said, it is a lot of work. You know, we are, you know, the superintendent included, we are, you know, all doing our regular jobs, and then we also have responsibilities that tie into the new building. But it is very much a labor of love, and you know, again, a situation for which I am very proud and blessed to be a part of this community. I would just like to just mention a few things to you as far as looking ahead. We have had you know, tremendous growth, and you know, Mr. Gay has mentioned that 33% growth. As we are continuing to look ahead, and we know that there are aspects of the new building that we can take advantage of, we realize that one of the things that we have not been providing for our students is enough of the co-op opportunities. And so as we move into the new building and we have the new schedule, which again is in negotiations right now, but we're optimistic that that's going to be successfully negotiated. That's going to provide a lot of opportunity for more students to take advantage of CTE. In addition to those new programs, it's going to help with class sizes in the rest of the building, because when students move into CTE classes, then they're not necessarily sitting in a gen ed class at that particular time. But you know, those partnerships that give our students the opportunity to go out into our community, which is a tremendous asset to us, is something that we need to do a better job of taking advantage of. We are already doing some things in terms of third-party safety, so OSHA, American Red Cross, those types of things. But we want to provide more of those opportunities for our students. You know, as you heard from our students, they want to use their CTE experience as a springboard into post-secondary opportunities, and they realize the value of it. If we can also provide them on their way out the door with more of these third-party safety certificates, it just, again, helps them to be more marketable in the workplace for internships, and also to their colleges in which they're applying to. But also competency credentials, again, things that we are currently doing, but there are opportunities out there that, you know, Mr. Gay has tremendous energy, but there's just certain things he just cannot get to. And, you know, again, to be able to provide our plumbing students, our welding students, our culinary students with additional certifications that make them more marketable is a responsibility that we have. The Blue Pride Bistro is something that we are extremely proud of. When the superintendent had lunch with those 4 students that he honored earlier tonight, I believe that lunch was catered by the bistro.
It absolutely was. And it was delicious.
I hope it was, yes, thank you. But, right now, they are serving 3 days a week for just a couple of hours. We would like to try to expand those offerings because, we're going to have that beautiful facility with the front-facing retail opportunities within the CTE marketplace. And so we want to try to expand the bistro offerings. Evening programs are just an absolute opportunity for us to, give a chance for this community who has supported us tremendously, a chance to come into the building that they have supported and helped fund, and be able to, pursue some of their passions, maybe learn some new things. It also does give us an opportunity, through some marginal tuitions and fees to be able to help add more materials into that CTE program. And, it's really important that these classes maintain their level of rigor and their level of safety. And they're also, as Mr. Gay mentioned, DESE keeps a close eye on what we do. And they have high expectations for compliance. And so, those are some of the things that we're focusing on going forward. I do just want to slide back to just a couple of slides. First of all, having the greatest level of utilization for all of the comprehensive high schools that are on this chart is something that I don't think can be understated. Again, Mr. Gay mentioned his predecessor, Ms. Montagano, who wrote a very competitive grant. She started that trend because it was under her watch that the new building started to come to fruition. And then as Mr. Gay has taken the baton and moved forward, he has really rallied his teachers and gotten our students to buy into it more. And we all know that the Chapter 74 monies that come from increased student population help the entire district, not just the CTE programs. But this is the one that really was impressive to me from the standpoint that we are bigger than some of the regional voc techs that are out there. When you really put that into perspective, it just shows that we are really booming. And, to Mr. Gay's point from earlier, it demonstrates the commitment that we get from central office, the commitment that we get from you, and the commitment that we get from our community to put CTE as something that we are absolutely all in on. I am concerned that based on the level of exponential growth that we've had, the fact that we need to make sure that we are paying attention to safety standards and making sure that now, even with new programs coming in and some programs that will even expand maybe to 2-person programs, that that we are maintaining a level of rigor in those classes. And so I do want to be candid that Mr. Gay is fabulous. And, we are very, very privileged to have him as a part of our staff. But I am concerned that there is more that could be done that goes beyond, what he can do over the course of his workday. And so I have asked the superintendent, I have made a request to the superintendent to consider us pursuing an assistant director of CTE. If you think about the regional voc techs, that we are just as big as, if not bigger, they have a director, an assistant director. Sometimes they also have a co-op coordinator and other supports that Attleboro doesn't currently have right now. And So again, just in terms of being here tonight, that is one aspect of the growth that something I think we have a responsibility as the administration to make sure that as we are growing, that we're growing with the right supports. And so I did make that recommendation to the superintendent, and I'll allow him to take it from there through the proper channels. But I was talking to Maya earlier. Maya's one of our CTE students as well, and she did ask if there was the opportunity for her to mention something about her program as well. So, Maya.
So I'm in graphic design and communications, and I was very fortunate this summer to be part of the summer printing program. And through that program, me and another student were able to work with clients and fill out paperwork, like their order form, learn about the invoice process, work with the machines, be more familiar with doing letterheads for the school, printing and printing all the business cards and stuff that teachers need. And we were also able to work with people outside of the community who come in and order like pamphlets for their restaurants, or even like programs for a recital. And we were able to work one-on-one with these people and receive criticism and learn how to be professional and in a timely manner. And I don't know how I would be able to have that experience without Attleboro CTE, and I'm thankful for that.
Thank you, Maya.
It's not criticism, it's feedback.
Feedback.
Yes.
So thank you for the opportunity to be here.
Well, thank you again. As I said before, I can't tell you how nice it is to have these spotlight events back on and to hear positive stories, because there hasn't been much of that around the country for the past year and a half or so since this started. So it really is good to hear. I think Superintendent Sawyer was right. This was the perfect program or perfect school, because it really is a school, to kick this off, because of how much it's grown, how important it is to the future of this the school and the city, and also the impressive work that the teachers and the students have done. I do want to give the students who spoke a round of applause now that they've all completed, so thank you very much. Any other questions, Mr. Storrs?
Yeah, one of the things I want to point out, it was alluded to a little bit, is with 450 plus students, if we didn't have these programs in Attleboro, many of those students, 50%, 60%, who knows, could go elsewhere. Might very well leave Attleboro to go to other schools that provided these type of courses. And the funding, I know we don't want to focus on the money, but obviously the amount of funding that we're talking hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars come into this district through our CTE programs. The fact that exploratory, every freshman has that opportunity, because I've always thought it's for kids, it's about the opportunity. My son, got to take advantage of engineering, and now he's in his third year doing engineering, and he has such a leg up because of what he learned in this building. So I see the value. It kills me to actually think back 5 years ago how some people, nobody in this room, but people outside of this building right now, didn't want the new high school to have CTE. It's actually incredible to me that there was even that thought out there, because the value of CTE to these students is, you can't say enough about it. And I'm so excited about what this new high school is going to do, how it's going to open it up to the community, how we're going to have the mall, and I can't wait to see that.
Thank you.
Mr. Geddes?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm going to try to say some of what what you were just mentioning. I agree this is a perfect spotlight for us to start back up with. I think a common theme that we heard from the students was about personal growth, personal reflection, that it seems higher than a sophomore or junior in high school would have. The transferable skills that come through CTE programs are remarkable. I think we saw tonight a number of networking opportunities. Samantha was talking about being part of the American Welding Society as a junior in high school. So I think this is also a great example of some of the most dedicated educators we have in the district are in our CTE programs, and this really is one of the, in a district that I think has a lot of great things happening, this is one of the greatest, not just the 3 programs we heard tonight, but all of the programs. I think CTE has evolved a lot in the 25, 30 years from what I remember it being in this building. And it's evolved a lot for the better, and I'm excited for the increases, admitting that there may be growing pains going forward. Sure. I think it's an exciting time for the CTE program. The only question I had, Mr. Rooney, towards the end, you talked about potential community programs. Is there a specific timeline for when those could possibly be implemented? My guess is the first year we kind of want to figure out how the students need to use the building, but
Right.
But what would the timeline be after that for opening the building up to some of those community opportunities?
I mean, we've already engaged Mr. Furtado and Mr. Sawyer in some of the preliminary aspects of that vision. I do appreciate you recognizing that next year is going to be a tough year as well. Beautiful new building, but this building obviously will be demolished, but the parking's not going to be finished, the ball fields are not going to be finished, and so we're going to be going through construction for at least another year and a half after we open the new building. But it is a priority for us because of the fact that we do want to demonstrate our appreciation to the community. And so I think that we will take that first year and look to see, how we can get it off the ground. Hopefully, by the fall of 23. Again, that would most likely be another position or at least a stipend that would have to be offered to somebody because they would have to be here pretty much around the clock.
Excellent. And my last comment is just thinking back to the number of class sections. 2 schools that I didn't see listed up there: Southeastern Regional, Tri-County. I mean, we're talking literally about an entire high school within our high school, and how the 2 intermingle so well, and how these programs benefit all of the students is just incredible. So thank you, Mr. Gay. Thank you, Mr. Rooney. And thank you, students and staff. Keep it up.
If I may, I didn't put Tri-County only because their population was under 1,000.
Right, yeah. Exactly. It's crazy.
Mr. Larson?
First, thank you for coming. It's a great presentation. Obviously, the CTE program is an amazing program here at the high school. It's fascinating to see the interaction between the instructors and the students. I know from my personal, what I saw when my kids went through the CTE program, the students in the CTE program are always closer to the staff of the CTE programs. There are a couple times that I think my kids had a surrogate parent on the side, because there's a bond that I noticed that just happened.
Definite sense of community because they are together for
Just-
level 1, 2, and 3.
Yep. And it was great to hear one of them talking about the Skills USA program. And I'm not sure many people realize or even know about it. If you could just give us a brief update as to, first, what the program is for a lot of people in the community that don't know it, and then which ones of the CTE programs are currently competing.
I spent, in my prior life as a teacher, I was a Skills USA advisor for 10 years, and then I worked for the state level as a series director for the last 6 or 7 years. So Skills USA is the largest student organization, not only in the state, but in the country. And it's a CTE-based student program where the students learn about everything from professionalism in the workplace, developing their skills, and it's open to any CTE student from any program. And they don't have to and they compete in their program areas, but they don't have to just compete in carpentry or culinary. They can do entrepreneurship, they can do management, they can do a skills demonstration. It's a truly amazing organization. Students compete initially at the district level or the school level. They determine who the top people are from each program. Then they go on to the district level, which is broken up. It's double use of the word district. But they break up the state into 6 different areas, and those students will compete against students from those other vocational programs in that area. And then from that, the top people would go on to the state conference, which is in April, and that is a truly amazing event. It's usually held at Blackstone Valley Tech in Upton, where you have thousands of students competing in hundreds of different programs. And then from that, the top winners go on to the national competition, which is now in Louisville, Kentucky, which is probably one of the most amazing experiences you could ever see when you see all those students competing for the national prize. And but it's not just about developing skills, it's developing the person. And when you put Skills USA medal winner on a resume, that's better than some college degrees, to be honest with you, as far as getting your foot in the door. And we have advisors here. We have some new advisors here at the school. There's going to be a reinvigoration of that program. And they're already starting work to go into a fall state leadership conference, which is the Monday before Thanksgiving. And they're taking 2 teachers, Mr. Rugg and Miss Kirsch, are taking 10 students from the school to that program. So we're starting, and it's exciting.
Glad to hear it. Thank you.
Mr. Domenici?
So not to echo all of my colleagues who have spoken, obviously happy to see everybody here for this event. But just one of the things, a couple of the things or themes that struck out for me is every student who spoke at each of the different programs. They're all coming into the programs with different ideas, or I thought this and then maybe this, but I see a lot of common themes, as you mentioned, Rob, of what they're getting out of the program. And that's like that's not just the efforts of the students, of course, but it's also the educators who connect them. And I had the ability once of getting a private tour in Mr. B's shop, and it was like being a kid in a candy store. I've attended Mr. Reed's. His students had put on panels, discussions over at BCC, which were excellent, and the speakers that they brought in, not Mr. Reed, his students went out and organized. And I think all 3 programs tonight, Ms. Chris Foley, I haven't had the opportunity yet to see your program, but I think all 3 of you are in a position where it's like, I'm building this from the ground up, and I'm going anywhere I can that I think will be beneficial for our students. And I think that's really like a great theme that we have on all of our educators in the CTE programs. There are no boundaries. They will push every limit they can to find something that will benefit our students. And for that I'm grateful, as I have a daughter right now going through the exploratory program, and she's been blown away by some of the programs that she hadn't even thought of. And I think it's given her pause. So we'll see what happens there. So thank you.
Well, Mr. Guttis?
Just one last question. A few weeks ago, I saw Freddie Wheaton did we hear your name as one of the award winners as part of
Daughters of the American Revolution Award, which is nominated by the staff, but selected by his classmates. So,
congratulations. I thought that name looked familiar. I was trying to figure out.
And you can also see him knocking people around as a linebacker on Friday nights as well. So. You don't still have the club on your hand, do you? No. Okay.
Well, thank you again. Thank you both for coming in for the presentation. It was great, and we appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Well, certainly a tough act to follow, but luckily next we have our Student Advisory Council to do so, and I have no doubt that they will do us proud as they always do. So we'll turn it over to you for your Around Attleboro Public Schools update.
Thank you.
Good evening. This week's All Around Attleboro program contains a lot of important information regarding the start of November.
Our SHC shoutouts start with the AHS Marching Band securing a silver medal on October 23rd and a gold medal yesterday at their NESBA competitions. And congratulations to the White Hawk cheerleaders for winning their competition on October 24th.
For our district-wide, just a reminder, there is no school tomorrow due to Election Day, and as well as no school on the 11th for Veterans Day.
We're going to move on to our elementary schools. All elementary schools are having their parent-teacher conferences on November 9th and 10th. If parents or guardians have any concerns about how their student is doing in school, this is the time for them to meet one-on-one with teachers and get more information. Hill Roberts is having their Race for Education on November 4th at 10 a.m. All proceeds will go back to the students at Hill Roberts to fund enrichment programs, technology upgrades, and other PTO-sponsored events. Hill Roberts is also having their PTO meeting on November 16th at 6:30 p.m. Hyman Fine is having their PTO meeting on November 4th at 6 p.m. in the Hyman Fine Library. Studley is having their PTO meeting on November 17th at 6:30 p.m. Willett's PTO meeting is on November 18th at 6 p.m., and this will be a virtual meeting. Thatcher is having their PTO meeting on November 10th at 6:30 p.m. in the school's cafeteria. Moving on to middle schools. Brennan and Wamsutta's STEM Week is finishing up at middle level. The Wamsutta PTO's meeting is on November 18th at 6:30 in the school library. Wamsutta is having their Veterans Day ceremony at 7:45 a.m. with the Attleboro Veterans Agency. Coelho's PTO meeting is on November 17th at 6:30, and this meeting will also be virtual.
For the high school, the Leo Club food drive started today and will go through the 12th, and boxes will be placed throughout the high school. The SAT exam is happening on November 6th, so make sure your student arrives to school extra early so they don't have to rush to sign in and get a parking spot. The Math MCAS retakes are on November 9th through the 11th for those who missed it last year. In addition, the ELA MCAS retakes are also on November 16th through the 18th. The AHS Drama Club will be having their senior district auditions on November 20th and is a great opportunity for students who are interested in theater and production. The Varsity Jacket Night is on November 22nd in the Bray Auditorium at 6:30, and this is a great time to celebrate your students' accomplishments over the past season. Powder Puff is also happening on November 19th at 6 p.m., where the seniors will take on the juniors for their football game. This year's Thanksgiving recess will be happening on November 24th through the 26th. For all winter athletes, winter sports will be starting on the 29th, and sign-ups are still open through the 5th of November. Lastly, senior pictures are due December 4th, and Chestnut Hill will be visiting Attleboro High School if students would like their pictures taken then. More information regarding this is in this week's Blue Mail from Mr. Rooney. Lastly, for community engagement, the Blue Pride Ambassadors Club is hosting an online palooza in December to benefit the Varsity Booster Club, the hockey program, and the music department. Follow the BPAC on Facebook or see Mr. Rooney's Blue Mail for more details. Yearbooks are available for pre-order. If you'd like to put an ad in for your student, you may do so here. This concludes our segment on All Around Attleboro. Thank you.
Thank you both very much for another great presentation. Appreciate it. Next, we have our Superintendent's Report. Mr. Sawyer.
Thank you, Chairman. I have several updates for you today. I'll pause after each one in case there are any questions before I move on. I think things will get lost if I check right through. First, I wanted to address last week's cancellation. That was Wednesday, the 27th. As we've talked about on multiple occasions, there's a real tension in the district between people who I think prioritize safety above and beyond, and then those who are more concerned about reliability. It is always a judgment call, and it is not surprising that because some people, have concerns about how difficult it is to scramble on a work day and find childcare when we cancel, and other people who think that any time conditions change outside and therefore aren't as safe as optimal, want us to prioritize those safety concerns. And so one of the realities of this role is that I can be assured that in those moments, no matter what I do, one of those groups, if not both, are going to end up dissatisfied with the outcome. So, that's the reality of it, and I just wanted to reassert the administration's commitment that from our perspective, of course, safety is first. When we have an issue in which we believe that, we have reason to believe that the conditions are unsafe, not perfectly safe, right? Like we've talked about many times about how there is no such thing as absolute safety. Safety is always relative. And so on that sliding scale, when we believe something to be unsafe, we're going to make decisions in accordance with that. But outside of that, we're going to make every effort on the 180 days of school that we schedule. We publish a calendar a calendar's, there, where we usually do that work in like January, so it's there for people to plan around, and it's our commitment that we're gonna have school on as many of those 180 days as possible. And so people should expect that even when things aren't perfectly safe, if they're not unsafe, then we're gonna come to school, and if families feel like, for whatever reason, that's conditions that they're not comfortable with, families can always decide to personally keep their kids home. But in those circumstances, we really want to honor the commitment to the people who are counting on us to be open on the days that we say we're going to be open. So that's how we conduct ourselves, that's how we're going to continue to, and that's what people should expect from us. Unfortunately, Wednesday provided one of those situations in which we had a safety issue. And what really made Wednesday difficult was the timing of it. We were up early in the morning assessing the district, and as late as 6 a.m. had communicated to principals that conditions, although there were treacherous outside, there was no reason why we didn't think that we could have school. And we told people to get yourselves ready because we're all coming in. And by the way, 6 a.m. is very, very late in the process. I mean, the bus drivers are already rolling out of the lots at that point. But there was a lot of stuff going on just in terms of the timing of the storm, and we were still monitoring that late. I no more than made that call at 6 a.m. that we're done, we're moving on with this. And the trees started falling at 6:10 in a way I can't even describe. There was rolling power outages throughout the city. We lost power here that we didn't restore until 8 o'clock that night, or something close to that. We also were seeing flickering power. We did lose power in a couple of buildings, and a couple of buildings power was coming on and off. And at that hour, we just decided that we couldn't have a school day because we weren't sure that there was going to be power, and power does relate to safety. We've been in buildings where the power's gone out on us during a school day, and we've made it through. But it's not a sound decision to bring people into a building when we already know that we don't have the power and have no reason to believe that the power will be restored at any time. So I do apologize that I know a lot of people were left scrambling. I know there was some criticism, and I can understand the frustration, but really, I don't see how we could have had school that day based on the conditions that we were facing at that hour. And I do appreciate that the timing was terrible, but I'm going to say Mother at least has to share the blame on that one with me. The last thing I'll say about that whole thing is that there were some concerns about people not getting the message on Remind. I would just point out to families, if you didn't get the message or you think you didn't get the message, Remind is automatic. Every student has contact information. Every student has a primary contact. Every primary contact is contacted by Remind, right? It's a computer. It does what it's told. It goes in, it grabs the first contact information, and it contacts that person. So what's likely the case is that whatever information is there is the problem. So if you're a family, you didn't get the message, you need to reach out to the school, and the school will help you to fix the information so that the next time we have that message, you won't miss out. All right, moving on. Last week, I notified the committee in an email that we had decided to hire a part-time assistant principal for the ELC. To just explain that a little bit more, as I promised I would. As you know, we were without an assistant principal at Thatcher, and at the beginning of the school year, we just decided that there wasn't an appropriate candidate that we could plug into that vacancy, and so we had to make other arrangements. And so, we did bring over a veteran teacher from Hill Roberts to help with the effort, but that's not the same as replacing an AP. And as the year has progressed, we're trying to assess the situation to make sure that we're getting everything done that we need to. And two areas that became very clear to us that we were having problems with is that the ELC was certainly part of the organization, and that's an additional thing that only Thatcher has. And so we were concerned about the attention that they were getting and the administrative support that they were getting as a result of having the absence of the second administrator at Thatcher. And then also, Thatcher is our largest elementary school. It has the greatest number of employees of all our elementary schools. And while we were able to help with a lot of the operational concerns with the move we made earlier this year, there's a real backlog of evaluations that have to be done at Thatcher. And so we really felt like we needed more administrative support there to be able to help with the evaluations to make sure that everyone is properly evaluated this year. So for that reason, we went looking, we did some networking, and we were very lucky to find Kim Sifrino. She was a principal for more than 20 years, most of that time in Fall River. She's currently working in higher ed, and she's willing to come on and give us half-time for the remainder of the year at the ELC. This is a temporary position, and we feel very fortunate that we were able to find somebody who's experienced and can come in and help support the needs of the building.
Mr. Geddes?
Just a very quick logistical question. You mentioned evaluations. So, would she only be responsible for evaluations for ELC staff, or would she be able to participate?
That is how we're dividing it up. I mean, she could technically evaluate anyone there, but that is how we divvied it up. So she's going to be focused on the ELC, so providing them with that attention that we think that they need to help with resolving issues and doing the kind of work that used to be done by the fact that there were 2 administrators, but also to do all of the evaluations at the ELC.
Perfect. Thank you.
Okay. Testing update. Just I know I told you on Friday, but I just think it's worth mentioning that we had no positive pools in the district last week. I mean, that's a pretty remarkable outcome. The only thing I'd comment, though, is that because we still have low participation, 54%, it keeps creeping up, but 1 or 2% a week isn't going to get us there. It undermines the overall legitimacy of that fact that there's no pools because a significant number of people aren't being tested. So that continues to be a concern, but it is good news that we had no pools. And I do think it matches the larger trend we're seeing both statewide, nationally, but in all other measures. So I think it is cause for optimism moving forward. I also wanted to update you on staff vaccinations. Last time we talked, we had a number of staff who hadn't responded, and we told you that we were going to go out and track them down. We only have 33 holdouts left, which is less than 5%, but we're going to continue to get that number down to 0, with the 33 holdouts being considered for the calculation as not being vaccinated, even though we don't know one way or the other. The district staff vaccination level is 90%, and AHS is now at 92%. So that number was much closer to what we thought it was, but we weren't able to report that at the last meeting. So I just thought I wanted to update you that did return to a level that we thought was to be expected.
What's the reason for staff not at this point now not providing the information now that it's been requested?
I don't think we can overgeneralize, say that it's all one thing, but to generalize, I think some people object to the question and don't feel like it's appropriate to ask them, even though we have a legal opinion on this that we have every right to.
So the legal opinion we have, can we require an answer at this point? I don't see why.
This at some point gets to a disciplinary level.
Okay, that's all I wanted to hear. Thank you.
We're going to get that number to 0.
Very good.
Be impatient at this point. Okay, moving on. I wanted to update you on the mask requirement. As I shared with you on the 26th, the commissioner gave us a full 5 minutes of notice that he was extending the requirement out to January 15th. While disappointed that the date has been extended that far, I think it's better to know what to expect than to keep living a little bit at a time, which has been frustrating for all of us. I assume that he went with mid-January because that'll give 2 weeks after everybody's home for the vacation. I think based on the trends, there's real reason for optimism. And while nothing was said in that very brief call that I could quote, I just got the general sense that they punted this to a place where they thought they wouldn't have to do it again. So that's where we are, and so if the community hadn't heard, we are required by the state to stay masked like this through January 15th. I would point out to you that we do have a policy that will, as we talked about before, one that said we would be revised basically this month, and that, will be in place when and if the mask requirement is lifted. I really would advise the committee to consider and anticipate the conditions that are going to occur as we get close to the 15th, right? Assuming, maybe it won't be the 15th, but at some point, the state's going to take away the requirement, and then we as a district are going to have to decide how to conduct ourselves moving forward. And I think the sooner you all make a decision about what people can expect in that moment, the better, because I get the distinct impression that there will be some people who make the argument that we should keep things as safe as possible and will expect us to stay masked. And of course, there will be some people who want to, give people the freedom to make that decision for themselves as quickly as possible. And so while, right now we don't have that choice and it's convenient to not have to take that on, I think it would be better, and I would recommend to you all to consider, deciding how this committee feels about these issues in advance of the 15th rather than letting the pressure build until that final moment. My recommendation is that the sooner we return to normalcy, the better. I think that's what's best for kids. As long as whatever we can do will be safe, and we'll ensure that people who have a chance to be vaccinated, that want to be vaccinated. I know that was a major concern in the summertime. That's a condition that will be different. I think that what will be best for kids is that as soon as we can get back to normal, the better. I do understand that there will be concerns around the implications in terms of everyone else's safety with that. And so, if there is considerations around that, I would really urge consideration of a incentivization of testing, right? So if we continue to test, one way to ensure that if we take the opportunity to change our approach to masks when we're given that choice, I think a really good way to keep us safe and to ensure that any rolling back of masks does not lead to spread would be to try to get that participation number up. So those are just my thoughts, and it'll be January 15th in a blink.
So yeah, my thought was, even though it doesn't have any impact, we're supposed to address it this month. I agree with you that we need to, the sooner we discuss it and let people know what the plans are, the better. So I plan on an agenda to have for the next meeting to have the policy on it. I haven't looked at the schedule. I haven't looked at the schedule for January. I assume we meet as a committee between January 1st and January 15th.
January 10th.
So we meet January 10th. If we come to January 10th and this, the situation in Attleboro is much different than the state, we can always take it up again there. Either way, so we'll have time to address it, but hopefully we won't need to. But my plan is to have it on the agenda for the next meeting. Mr. Larson.
Would it be? I think it would be in our best interest, maybe at our next meeting, which I'm assuming is in 2 weeks, if we could have somebody either from the city or possibly one of the medical staff from the schools just do a brief update as to where the vaccinations for students is or will be. I know there's a lot of different things that have come out in the news, but I think, we have an obligation and an opportunity at our next meeting to talk about who's eligible for what vaccinations at what age and at what group. And I think, we need to really encourage the community that when people can be vaccinated, that, it's in everybody's best interest to consider getting vaccinated so that we can get back to something that resembles normal. And so if we could maybe update the community at our next meeting about where those different levels are, and we can have a little more of a conversation about that. I think that would be in our best interest. So,
can you coordinate that with the nurses or the health department?
Absolutely.
Thank you, Mr. Domenici.
Thank you, Chairman. And I agree with you on that take, Mr. Larson. I think that would be helpful. And I also agree that we need to start thinking about this sooner versus later. Even though we have a January 15th deadline, we should really be thoughtful about what that will mean for our community. And on that note, what I'd really like to know, because there were two specific points to the mask requirements, or basically DESI's rulings. there's the mask for all, regardless of vaccination status in your district or in your buildings. And then they had this 80% rule, which was like after they lifted this mask for all requirement, you still had to be 80% or higher. So it would be helpful, and I know that it's, you can only do what you can do, but it would be helpful to get some kind of understanding from DESE as to, what gets lifted on the 15th. Will they lift the mask requirement for all but still keep this 80% in? Because I think that also helps us with our decision. We have to be prepared if they lift everything. But even when they moved it from October 1st to November 1st, they were still referencing the 80% rule. So I think it can get a little confusing at times to understand. Like, we have to have legislation in place for our community.
80% rule is in effect now, right? I mean, districts can opt out now.
Provided they meet the 80%.
Right, correct.
But
That's through January 15th. I think the idea would be at January 15th, they would get rid of
any requirement.
I don't know, the way it's written, it doesn't really, it's a little ambiguous. And when I even contacted DESE, the person I spoke to, they couldn't really clarify it either. So it's, it'd be helpful to know that if January 15th comes, then everything gets lifted. Makes it a little easier for us to make a decision.
Sure.
And that's all I had to
We will
say.
certainly inquire.
Yeah.
I'm not optimistic that anyone's going to answer the question. And it doesn't matter. One of the reasons why they're not going to is because I don't think they know what they'll do on January 15th until January 14th. So, we will certainly get what we can from them, because I agree with you. I think anything is possible. But I agree with the chairman that what I think they want to get to a place where they can do is to lift the requirement.
I agree.
And the 80% is an exception to the requirement. So if you lift the requirement, the 80% doesn't matter anymore.
I get that point. It would be helpful to know, because even with November
absolutely-
1st coming up, it was unclear what
Yeah, no,
was,
it
or
would
wasn't
absolutely be
going to
helpful if
the
they could
case.
give us some sense of what to expect.
Yeah, I agree. Thank you.
Mr. Geddes.
Thank you. As far as our meeting schedule, we do have a meeting in 2 weeks, and then after that, we only have December 6th, and then we don't meet again until January 10th. I appreciate wanting to give as much notice as possible, but I think a lot of what would go into that decision would be a lot of information that we won't what the conditions are. We won't be able to predict what the conditions are in early to mid-January when we're meeting in mid-November. So I think that's something we should consider. I do think to the superintendent's point, I do think we need to anticipate and think about what we hope for, but as far as making a decision, I have concerns about doing it that far in advance.
Well, that's why I referenced that we have the January 10th meeting, because if the numbers end up being what we're hoping they're not, we can take it up again at that point. So that's the reason why I mentioned the January 10th meeting for that purpose. Mr. Storrs?
Yeah, I was just going to say, any policy that we do create, it can be based on something. I think we talked about that back when we argued this point for hours on end, and then a week later had the state overrule us. But if our policy is based on a specific thing, such as community numbers, or whether or not they're in the testing pool, or something of that nature, then we don't have to sit here every other meeting debating whether or not we lift the mask. Or effectively, it would be, if this is the situation, masks are on. If that's the situation, masks are off. We wouldn't have to worry about it, moving forward, and everybody would know what to expect as we move forward. That's where I would lean, I guess you could say.
Yeah, I think that's part of, on both sides, I think that's part of the discussion that we can look forward to, or dread, or however you want to put it, for 2 weeks from tonight. Or both.
No, and I appreciate it, and that's really, the essence of my point, which is that whenever a decision gets made, it's going to be, a heated discussion, and there will be people who disagree with whatever the outcome is. But I think that will be made worse if we're taking it up on January 10th for the first time, rather than considering on the 10th whether or not we have to change course as a result of conditions, which you're right. People are right. Nobody knows what January 15th is going to look like, although I would argue that the state has demonstrated that they're going to be cautious if there's reason for concern. So this is really about imagining conditions in which the states become more liberal, and I'm not that worried that they're going to remove the policy if the conditions are still a concern. Thank you. My last one, as we learned, has already been mentioned, tomorrow's a PD day. So, what's actually election day, obviously, that's why we have a PD day tomorrow. The city's need to use our schools as polling places, or some of our schools as polling places. And so to accommodate that, we have to have tomorrow be a professional development day. At our last meeting, we talked about professional development. Our full days are different from our half days. It's a different program, so teachers will be engaging in their following up on work they've done in their pathway, which started back in August. Yeah. So this is a continuation of that work. It's not related to the professional development around culturally respectful practices that we reported on last week. So it's a different thing entirely. In fact, the next one related to culturally respectful practices, responsive practices, was not till January, the Friday, that next early release day, which is the Friday before the holiday. But I just wanted to circle back to that presentation that we provided last week, because I know that in some corners of the community there was some concern that, what's going on here is that we're just changing the name of CRT, critical race theory, to culturally responsive practices. I'll just say that this is part of my general befuddlement over this issue. I really feel like no matter how much we protest that the district is not buying into CRT or promoting it, it seems like some people really want that to be true, which I don't understand. But certainly, as we talked about, there's a need for better transparency, and so I think we should continue to talk about it. And I have a couple things that I wanted to say today. First is that this isn't some sort of name change to dodge an issue. We were talking about, this professional development that we reported on last time, that again, we're not doing again until January. We started developing this at least by 2018, maybe even before that. It's hard to get the timeline exactly straight, but I mean, this goes back multiple years that we were working on this particular professional development, using culturally responsive as the terminology. So we didn't invent this term in some sort of response to concerns around critical race theory. This is a term, and this is a theory and a pedagogical approach that predates all of that, and something that was in the works before all of that. So this isn't some sort of shell game that we're playing. It's an honest accounting of what we're doing. I think the real problem here is about not defining our terms. CRT, as we talked about, as I brought up back, I think that was in June the last time we talked, or the first time we talked about it, means different things to different people. And, lots of words have that effect. That's not new. But I really think that we can't, as a district, allow people to define CRT as anything that they're opposed to, right? If that's how people define it, then we're going to, run afoul of that definition all the time. Now, I don't get to define CRT any more than anybody else does, so I'm not here to tell you how we should define it. But I did want to share that, from my perspective, I do think that there are some key concepts that are central to the idea. And, my understanding of CRT is still in development. This is a term that is relatively new to me. While, critical theory is an idea that's not new, and I've known about that through my own studies, for some time. But the particulars of critical race theory that is causing such a national uproar, that I've learned in the last, year and a half. So in my studies, which are nascent, a couple things I think are important to point out that CRT are, which is why I object to the idea that this is what we're doing. One, I think it's safe to say that at its core, CRT involves Marxism, right? It involves postmodernism, and most clearly it involves racial essentialism, right? And as I've already talked about, these are, whether they're right or they're wrong, whether you like them or you don't like them, these are ideologies, right? This is an ideological set of beliefs. And as I keep saying, there's no place for ideology in schools. And so, when people say, well, isn't this or isn't that well, isn't that CRT? Again, if we allow people to say that anything to deal with race is critical race theory, we're going to lose this fight. And I just want to go back and try again to explain that culturally responsive practices is different from that. Because, again, CRT, espouses to look at the world solely through the lens of race. And while we do talk about race as a district, we talk about it as professionals, when we talk about pedagogy, but we also, in classes, in appropriate places, discuss issues around race with students. It is in our mission to deliver relevant learning experiences. I don't know how we can, especially with our older students, deliver a relevant learning experience that sidesteps something as relevant to the world that we live in now. It is part of what we do, but this is why it's not CRT, because in the end, culturally responsive practices is about meeting the needs of all students, right? And understanding what various issues that students face. And while in 2021, of course, race is one of those things, it's not the only one as we are engaging in this discussion, right? We are concerned around other issues. And just to name a few, there are students with disabilities, there are students who are living in poverty, we have students who are dealing with trauma, right? And while some of those students also happen to be black, some of those students also happen to be white, right? And they're all our concern, right? And we're trying to meet the needs of all of these students. And so while, yes, concerns around race are one of the things that we have to grapple with as a district, and we'll do so unapologetically, we are not here to divide our children up by race or to try to brainwash them into thinking any one particular way of looking at the world is the only true one. So that's not what this training has been about. And, I hope that if we keep trying to explain ourselves at some point, we'll make some progress in convincing people that our intentions are sincere.
Mr. Storrs?
Who's providing the training to the staff?
On cultural responsive practices?
Good fix. Yes.
It's staff developed.
Yeah, so we've trained trainers and now they're training the staff. Is that a good way to think of it?
Yeah, but it was all developed from the lab.
Yep.
Right?
Okay.
So, that's an internal body, and then they developed a framework, and then in each building there's a group of people who are the ones that developed the training for that building that was sensitive to the way that the particulars of that building.
And so each building is not training in the same things, or specifically.
Well, so the thrust of the training was the same, but the experiences did differ from building to building.
Okay.
Ms. Larson?
I think we all need to know the professional development that the staff goes through. It's not created in a bubble. The lab does an incredible amount of work with the Professional Development Council throughout the year, and they're working a year in advance, 6 months, 9 months, 12 months in advance. Just to back up what Superintendent Sawyer said, it's not something that got dreamt up last month, and it's done very much collaboratively. The administration, the administrators, the staff, the teachers, the paras are even involved in it at this point. So it's not happening in a bubble, and everybody talks it all out. It's brought back up to the lab for approvals. So, none of this is happening without everybody being involved. So I just want to reaffirm all that. So.
I just want to thank you for that presentation and clarification. I think it was perfectly said. I think, as I've said before, I'm someone that, I have no use for critical race theory. I really have no use for really most or any critical theories in general. I'm not a fan in my study of them, and they have no place in Attleboro schools. So it's been befuddling to me to see the response to keep, asking if we're doing it and accusing us of doing it. So I think it's important that we continue to get the message out there. I'm sure those people who don't want to hear the message won't hear the message, and will continue to say what they want. But yeah, I think it's important to, there's a difference between what we're doing here, which is important, and critical race theory, which is something that we're keeping out of the Attleboro Public Schools. So thank you.
That concludes my report.
All right, thank you, Superintendent Sawyer. Next, we have minutes from our October 18th, 2021 meeting. Minutes were circulated with your papers. Do we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Any edits or discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Consent agenda tonight, 5 items I will read through. Motion to accept a payment of $6 from Bay State Textiles to Hill Roberts. Motion to accept a donation in the amount of $5,500 from the Feinstein Foundation to the Coelho's Gifts and Donation Account. Motion to accept the contractual obligation of $125.60 from Planet Aid, Inc. as broken down on the check receipt dated 10/22/21. Motion to accept a donation in the amount of $7,702 from the Wamsutta PTO to Wamsutta Middle School Gifts Donation Line. And a motion to accept a donation in the amount of $75 from Target to the Attleboro High School Gifts Donation Line.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Next, we have open forum. Is there anyone who would like to address the committee at open forum? Please come forward and state your name and address.
Hello.
Hello.
Name is Anthony Marine at 500 Mendon Road in Attleboro. Just briefly, just a couple of thoughts, and I really appreciate all the hard work, and I loved hearing the kids and the teachers were excellent. But just that, CRT is a big hot item, as you know. I'm not telling you anything you don't know, but I was trying to find out more about. I heard a lot about what it isn't, but I was trying to find out what it is, and I'm just thinking, perhaps if you put some information about exactly what it is, it would calm the concerns about a lot of people. I'm just throwing that out there. I know for myself, I'm saying, gee, what is this? And if you don't know, and it might be my ignorance, maybe it's out there and I just don't know it. But that's just one thought I just came across. And the other thought too, with all this mask thing and vaccinations, I won't go through it again. I'm against all that. But another thought is maybe we could get some input about with the students, what they think, or perhaps the teachers. And it's no secret that there's a lot of coercion. A lot of people are getting it simply to save their jobs. So I'm saying to myself, maybe you could reach out in that way also and to see. I mean, you're making decisions for all these people, and I know you don't have much leverage right now because, you have to do what the state is telling you to do. So, but you're talking down the line, and perhaps you might want to try to get some of that input, or perhaps invite some people. Well, they're invited anyways, but I'm just, just get some other thoughts on that and see what they say, and perhaps some people, would shed some light on
I
that.
know that, the Attleboro Education Association spoke on this last time, so I would not be surprised if they, decided to speak again either at our next meeting number 4, January 15th.
Mhm.
And they're certainly invited, but I appreciate the
Yeah.
advice. Yep.
Okay, that's all I have.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Is there anyone else who'd like to address the committee?
Elaine Marine, and you need my address?
Yes, please.
Yeah, 500 Mendon Road, Attleboro.
Mm-hmm.
So I know there's probably a little bit of aggravation on your part trying to keep explaining that you guys don't involve CRT in your education. I'm just asking you to be a little patient with some of us. I, like you, don't like CRT, but I'm not quite sure about SEL. And I think there's some overlap. And I've heard little bits and pieces that it's sort of a precursor to CRT. So I'm trying to do my research. I don't know if that makes sense to any of you, but it's just a real fuzzy part to know for sure what is here. I hear lots of good things, and I'm really pleased with what I hear, but I don't have the big picture of any of it yet. So if you could just bear with us for a little while more, we're not trying to nitpick, we're not trying to come at you. We're just trying to find out really what our kids are learning, what's really here. So
Yeah.
thank you for all you do. I see the struggles, I see your heart, I see the excellence that comes out of the school, and I'm just thanking you all.
Thank you. And I would, encourage you and any members of the community that have specific questions about that issue or any issue to contact either the school committee or the administration to help go over questions you may have, which we and I know they are happy to do as well.
Thank you. I think I personally need to figure out what my questions are first.
Sure.
So thank you.
Yeah. Anyone else? All right, that will close open forum, and I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.